I just checked the participants list. I can see many names that I know, but I can also see many names that I do not know. So it's a pleasure that all of you are here. Yeah, we'll jump into it. The program or my plan for today or for this next 55 minutes is just to make a short introduction of the webinar and say who we are, find out who you guys are, and then I'll present the Crane and Hoist training standard with the 2 modules and have a short discussion on why it is important to do training on safety with lifting operations. I'll present the scope and the objectives for the standard and for the 2 modules, and then a short discussion on why do we do it, what challenges can you find, what challenges have I heard about in relation to the Crane and Hoist trainings, benefits, G+ points. We have the chat open all the time, and my colleague Wilmin Schmidt, she will forward all the questions you put into the chat, so that every time I take a breath, Wilmin will say, oh, there's a question, in case you have questions. So please do not hesitate, share your questions in the chat, and we'll take them as we go along. Okay, thank you. So the first question I have for you is, who are you? What are you doing? Why are you here? Please fill in the poll here. My colleague Virginia is sitting in the background doing all the technical parts of the webinar. She's also the one who invited you all. And Virginia, do we have any answers? Yeah. So what I see is a majority of training people, training providers, instructors. Very nice. I will spend some time talking about how to teach these modules and what are the challenges. And I hope you'll also post questions, and so we can discuss what are your challenges, and maybe we can find some answers together. Let's work on that. Okay, thank you, Virginia. Can we see the bottom? Can I see the bottom of the geographic thing? Or maybe I can slide it myself. Yeah. Asia, Australia, Africa, Europe. Wonderful. I guess it's in the evening in the eastern part of the world right now. Thank you for staying up that long. That's great. Thank you. Okay, I'll jump into it. First, I'll do a presentation just so that those who do not know me, just get an impression of who's speaking here. So I'm Thomas Grønlund. I'm a project manager in the training team of GWO Secretariat in Copenhagen. When I was a very young man, I was sailing with a Maersk Line, and I was also driving those cranes that you see on the picture on the old cargo ship down there. My training was 3 minutes introduction from a Chinese sailor who said, push this bottom and pull this handle. I'm also a learning guy. I'm mostly a learning guy. I was 35 years in Danish Navy. I'm a teacher. I'm a pedagogical researcher, and teaching, learning is very much my thing. I'm not a technician. It's not only paper posters I'm working on when I'm teaching. We also use, for example, virtual reality. A short picture, a small picture here of me wearing a harness. I don't wear harness. I work in an office. but I took the picture just to illustrate that the training team, we try to do as many of the GWO trainings as possible to sort of be able to talk about this, so we know what's actually happening out there. And the right picture, or the last picture on the right corner, is from the Crane work group. We started the project with a 5-day workshop in Copenhagen to discuss what is the scope, where are we going, what's the framework and everything. So that's very nice. My first question is, I could imagine you maybe have that question. Why is safety awareness on lifting operations interesting or necessary? And the answer to that question is that it's because the GWO members, which are all the wind manufacturers and the wind operators out there, they decided that we have to do something because there are too many incidents on crane or lifting operations. And I just show one slide from the G Plus 2022 report to illustrate that there is actually a need to do something. I was trying to make a QR code, so if you wanted to visit the report, you could just use the QR code, but I could make it work. So please note that if you Google G Plus 2022 report, you can go into this report. It's very interesting. There is a lot of knowledge about all things, all operations in onshore and offshore industry. So this is just to show you that lifting operations, they are the work. It's the work process with the most incident reported, and that is a lot. It's almost double as much as number 2, which is manual handling. And this is a very, very, very fine indicator, I think, on that we have to do something, because people are not taking the necessary responsibility for doing the right thing out there when operating cranes. And yeah, so we hope this training will have an impact to make work life better and more safe. About the training standard. So it covers small cranes. I typically say that, for example, in Denmark, you can operate a small crane, which is a crane which is less than 8 tons meter. You can operate that without any kind of certificate or training, in principle. And maybe that is what is happening out there too often, since there are so many incidents. So we made this training to enable wind industry people, technicians, to operate these cranes and do the right thing, take responsibility, operate them safely, but also to inspect and maintain common, again, small fixed cranes according to the manuals, documentation, and of course, relevant legislation. We'll dive deeper into this in a moment. Thank you to Claire from Australia for sending me this very beautiful picture without kangaroos. Anyway, the standard 2 modules. There's a Crane Hoist basic user module and the more complex module for inspection and maintenance. The Crane Hoist basic user is prerequisite to do the inspection and maintenance module, but there is no prerequisite to do the basic user module. We discussed whether the slinger signaler should be a prerequisite for the user module, but it was decided that was not necessary. The 2 modules, you can read the slide. I'll be quiet for a short moment. It's worth noticing that on the basic user, it's I can do this with the pointer. It's worth noticing that we're talking about pre-planned basic lifting operations. So the basic user is not supposed to be able to do or to develop a lifting plan, but he or she is supposed to be able to understand the lifting plan. So that is what they will practice on the training. They're not supposed to use big cranes for constructions. They're only supposed to be able to use these small common types of cranes and hoists and follow the procedures for that. For the more advanced module, module 2, it's very shortly described here. They're not supposed to go out there and do an inspection and a maintenance like on any type of crane, but they're supposed to know about it and know what to do, how to do it, and then they'll get wiser as they work along. The aim of the basic user module: ensure safety awareness, common types of small fixed cranes and fixed hoists. And here comes what I think is maybe the most important part of it: follow manufacturer's manuals. Always follow the manufacturer's manuals. After 2 days training, we cannot expect people to be able to go out there and do stuff on any crane they meet, but they should be able to know, I have to find or look for and find and use the manual for the crane. On the inspection and maintenance module, again, follow the manual. The manual will tell you what you're allowed to do and what you're not allowed to do. Many will say, I have heard a few times, that it takes 2 or 3 weeks to be able to learn how to maintain a crane. And that may be true, but this is also, if you look at the learning objectives to the right, they're supposed to understand the importance on inspecting and doing the stuff in accordance with the manufacturer's manuals and legislation. So again, this manual thing is it's the most important part of the training. To build this responsibility, always use the manual. So it's not about spending a lot of time on driving cranes or taking pieces apart on a crane. It's about look at the book, what can you do, what are you not allowed to do, so that when the participants come out to the working sites, they'll look for the manual. They'll not think of themselves as champions on crane maintenance. They know they have to look in the book. I'll get back to this in a moment further. And please out there, post some questions or some comments, because I know you have comments. I know you're doing your own wonderings. So please share them so we can discuss them. So I have next question here: is it possible after 2 days training to reach these learning objectives? And my answer is yes. We have to focus on the aim of the modules, but also focus on the level of the learning objectives. We are not talking about complex, high-level learning objectives where they become specialists. We are talking about safety awareness. We are talking about doing the right thing. We're talking about knowing what is all this about, so that they get out to the working sites. They will know where to go, what to ask, what they need to learn, and ask for the manual. I think that this is an important thing to remember when we look at these trainings. And then down here, my comment here: furthermore, additional site and equipment relevant training must be expected on site. It's in the standard that yes, we hope they will leave your training centers with this feeling of taking responsibility, with this mindset of doing the right thing. That is for you and your instructors to build on that mindset. And then when people get out to the work site, they know that the operators will know that these guys from the 2 days training, they need some local familiarization. I cannot say that word. I hate it. Familiar. You know what I mean. They have to get to know this crane, the local crane, and then they learn how to use it. What I hear is that you don't get a wind technician out on a new wind farm and just say, okay, you can just work. They will always get introduced. There's a induction training and probably also some technical induction training. So that's where they learn how to use the equipment on site with the basic knowledge of safety and awareness on the backs. Yeah. Does it work? Yeah, it works because we tested it and we could see that it worked. We did some pilot testing of the 2 modules. We did 2 early ones and rely on UTech in Esbjerg on the user. We made a user training in Barrow in UK. Then we did a user and a maintenance and inspection in Berlin. And we also did user and inspection in Sparrows Group in Louisiana. And of course, they all showed us something that we learned from. We had to adjust some timings. We had to emphasize some places in the standard that you have to do this, you have to do this, and you don't need to do that. For example, we saw a lot in the beginning. We saw, because you guys that work with cranes, you are specialists and you know what's important. And you'll say, for example, legislation. Legislation is very important and it takes a long time to learn all the legislation that can be. And when this is a generic training that they're supposed to be using everywhere globally on any cranes, there will be a lot of legislation. It'll take many days to learn all this legislation. And that's where we said, no. They should not know any legislation, but they should know that there is legislation. They should know there are different roles and responsibilities that they have to be aware of. And then they should learn the local legislation when they get to the work site. I hope that makes sense.
I got a question for you, Thomas.
Yes, please.
Is it the expectation that both standards become a mandatory prerequisite for the technicians when working in wind farm on and offshore during O&M activities?
Good question. Thank you for that. Well, it's mandatory. No, it's not mandatory unless the operator or the duty holder out there deems it mandatory. But it's a request from the members of GWO, and the members of GWO it's Vestas, Siemens, Vattenfall. It's all the manufacturers and operators, and they have asked for this training. That's why we have developed it. And it's developed together with in a work group with all the members, representatives, crane technicians. So it depends on where you're going to work, but probably most of the places people are going to work, it will be mandatory to have this, because there are so many incidents that could be maybe mitigated by just these short awareness trainings. We see the incidents are, on the small routine lifts. It's about lifting fish boxes and load bags and stuff like that. It's not complex lifts. It's just people doing the wrong thing instead of doing the right thing on the boats, on the pier, or on the TP. Yeah. So short answer, no, it's not mandatory.
Great, thank you, Thomas. We also have a second question from Nick. It is, has this certification been approved and will be accepted by the main operators within the wind sector, like Vestas, Ørsted, Siemens Gamesa?
Yes, thank you. Exactly. Yeah, it is approved. It was approved by the members in the training committee. The members are represented in different levels in GWO, and in the training committee, it was approved in early June, and the board of directors, which are also members on a higher level, they approved it in late June or 1st of July when we released the training standard. We have had G+, we have had them, they have made a lot of good comments for the training standards, and we have also had some discussions with G+, and we know that when we do the review of the standard next year, we will contact G+ again and see, okay, what have we learned from this year and what should we change in the standard? But it's approved by all the members.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
That's it.
We will move on. And now just a few key points, or I should call them, from the training standard. What they learn is, for example, to prepare for lifting operations. So they learn how to read the lifting plan. They they use the manual. They go through the crane. They do the test lifting, see that it works. And they, as you can see on the picture, they follow the manual all the time. The manual is there. They do it step by step. They follow the inspection list and all this. This is one thing they learn. Also some signaling and some basic liftings. So signaling, and they also learn something about slinging, because if you're a basic user of a small crane, you will also be sitting in a nacelle, maybe having to hoist stuff or maybe lower stuff, and then you have to know something about slinging. So we actually found out that when we had written the standard of the module for basic user, almost 40% of that training module is also in the slinger signaler curriculum, which means that if you do this training, maybe you don't have to do this slinger signaler. But again, it's totally up to the operator to decide what training the employees should have. So signaling and basic lifts, including a blind lift, as you can see on the right picture, where they use the walkie-talkie for communication between the operator and the signaler.
Great. We have another question,
yes,
Thomas.
please.
Is the course focusing mainly on offshore, or is it adjusted as well to onshore internal hoist use?
Thank you for that. It's both offshore and onshore, and the incidents that happen are also both onshore and offshore. So we're focusing on both domains.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. To that, maybe I could add that, and then you guys must correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe it's a little more difficult or complicated to do liftings offshore, because you will have some dynamics, vessels moving a little, or more wind, or I don't know. But you can correct me if I'm wrong. And actually, when I'm thinking about it, if you're sitting 100 meters up in the air and the tower is moving a little because it's a little windy, I guess that is probably also quite challenging. I never tried it, so you know better than I do on that. Next one is slinging routine loads. I talked about fish boxes and lifting bags, but also maybe like these pipes that are shown in the left picture. They also learn how to inspect the lifting accessories, like the slings and hooks and stuff, if it's still workable. And here, not the main, but one of the very basic issues about legislation, manuals, roles and responsibility. Follow the manual. We saw this very interesting the picture on the right side. In Barrow, they had made sort of a game where you sort of found out where in the process do these people have responsibility, where in the process do these people have a special role, and so they had a lot of discussion around the table about what is roles and responsibilities on a wind farm, or ashore, onshore, offshore, or for the crane operator or whatever. So that was very interesting. It took a little time to do it, but I think everybody got a very good impression that there are actually there are some regulations here and then some rules that has to be followed. That was quite interesting. Yeah, and also I just put on my note here, always follow. I mean, I think when you teach this, if you teach it, I think when you teach it, you should always address this manual and not so much look at the technical details as this and this is very, but all the time also at least push on what does the manual say? What does the manual say? So people, they really understand the necessity of looking into the manual. This is also because the manufacturers of the cranes, they say, we have some trainings that are pretty good actually, where they learn how to drive our crane, and that'll take a week or something. And we say, yeah, but that's not the aim of this training. Our training is that you should find your manuals and then read them and use them.
We got a more of a suggestion actually than a question, I think, Thomas.
Yes,
maybe
please.
we'll discuss it. A suggestion that said maybe it would be a good idea to extend the slinger signaler training with the crane and hoist knowledge instead of creating two very similar trainings.
Yeah, thank you for that. We have had a lot of discussions on that. And of course, to the members, it's about only providing the training that is necessary. And there will be some crane operators or slingers who will need to do the slinger signaler as well. And maybe they'll then have some doubled slinging teaching. We'll have to see if it's an issue in the coming year. And then maybe we will adjust the standards. It's not, we have had the discussions and we landed on where we are now.
Yeah, and a follow-up question in the chat says, if we will give the opportunity to shorten the duration of the slinger signaler course, if the crane and hoist courses, if they're run together. So if you combine it, I guess.
Yeah, I totally agree. And actually, I thought when we started the project, I thought this was sort of the idea to make a combined. But when we developed and moved along in the process, I learned that that is not what was wanted. But again, I think after 1 year or so, we'll see what is the demand of this training and what is the demand of the slinger signaler. Will there be less slinger signaler courses? Because maybe it's a normal technician who needs to be able to operate a small crane doesn't really have to do, is it 2 or 3 days slinger signaler? So we'll see what the experiences will be after 1 year. But thank you for the input.
Yeah, we have time for one more, or you want to go on to the?
Yes, please.
Okay. It's more a concern instead of a question. It's somebody who would like to express my concerns that the GWO slinger signaler should be a prerequisite to attend the basic course. And I understand that some elements are covered again within the basic module. However, this would just be refreshing the participants' knowledge, seeing as slinger signaler does not expire.
Yeah, many, yeah, there are a few questions in that. Yeah, we talked about it. We analyzed it. And it was decided that it should not be a prerequisite to do slinger signaler before the basic user. Can you say the last line again, Wilhelmine?
Yes, since some elements are covered again with the basic module for crane and hoist, but then I think the upside of it is that it's just a refreshing, so it's repetition of the knowledge. Because the slinger signaler does not expire, so you can do that 10 years before and then take this one. But it's
true. So what happens on the basic user is that there is no expiring date on that either. But I can also see that many companies, many members, they do the slinger signaler every year or every second year because they think it's necessary. And we discussed if there should be any on the crane user, and it was decided not to. But I bet you we're going to see some people doing the basic user every second, every third year, because that is what some of the members wanted. So they will probably do that, ask for that. For the maintenance, inspection and maintenance module, it expires after 3 years. But again, if some members find it necessary, they'll maybe say after 2 years or whatever. But again, I think this amount of incidents out there speaks its own language, sort of saying that we need people to create better habits and do the right things out there. And if that calls for a training every second year, that's maybe where we will end. But there will be no prerequisite, or the slinger signaler will not be a prerequisite for the basic user. Not for now, but as I said, maybe we'll find out it's necessary. I'm not sure because I think basic user is actually delivering what is needed for common wind technicians and not for specialized crane people. And yes, then they learn something that they have learned before, and maybe that doesn't really matter so much. We saw on one of the pilots there was a guy who had done the slinger signaler very close before he came to the basic user, and he wasn't actually quite sure how to sling a fish box. So maybe they don't. Maybe it's okay to try it once again if you have done the slinger signaler before. So a long story. I'll move on. I hope.
Yeah, we have a few more. We can maybe also do it later on, or if you prefer to do it now.
Yeah, let's take one more.
Okay. So, and I think the one that's in addition to that is somebody that says that the slinger signaler has a slightly higher learning objective. So that maybe the crane and hoist basic user should be a requirement for the slinger signaler. So the other way around.
Yeah. And
that considered.
Yeah, that makes good sense. And I also heard some from the work group who said that when we get people to work, we will probably have them all do the basic user, and then at some point, most of them, or maybe just some of them, will do the slinger signaler later in the work process. So that makes good sense. But we cannot make it mandatory. But it makes good sense to do the slinger signaler at some point after you have done the basic user, actually. Yeah. Thank you for that. I'll jump on.
Yeah, and I will do the rest because they keep coming in. So we'll do the rest a bit later.
Okay, wonderful. So, and I just made one slide on the inspection maintenance. Yeah. The whole point in doing these 2 days training on inspection and maintenance of a crane is not to make people specialists in maintain a crane, because it takes time. How long time does it take to grease? I don't know how long a wire on a crane is, but that's probably 60 or 100 meters or so. So you cannot learn how to do all these things on different kinds of cranes in 2 days. So what they should learn is, as I put on the slide, they should discuss how to perform the maintenance, talk about hazards, touch what can be touched on the crane at hand, discuss similar issues and other crane types, and visit different manuals. Because we also have to remember that even though you training providers, you maybe have 1 or 2 different crane types, we should actually cover most crane types so that they know that on a knuckle boom crane, there's a blah, blah, blah thing here, but on a cylinder thing crane, it's a little different because that'll look like this. And we should have some manuals to look into to see, oh, that's the difference between, oh, now I know something. But we also have to have the participants discuss it, talk about it, so that it actually get stored in the brain of them. And the generic part of this training is a challenge, because there's a lot of knowledge to take in on a short time. But we think it's doable.
But I think the question that's just been posted fits perfectly with this slide. It says that the course is heavily reliant on checking the manual. Many technical manuals are of poor quality, bad translations, out of date, poor images, etc. Does the course guide what to look for in a manual to be confident if it's correct, safe, and legal to follow?
That's a fair point. Again, I think if you work as training providers, if you work on the mental part of it, on the mindset part of it, to say, use the book, read the book, follow the book. And then when people get out on the work site, they must have the real books, because it's a responsibility of the operator that there's a manual for every device, lift or crane or hoist. There must be a relevant manual. So it's not so much about looking into an old or a new manual on the training facility. and the training facility, it's more about creating the mindset to look at the book in the book. I hope that makes sense. Of course, if you have a crane on the training center, you must have a manual that is usable, updated. I guess that's the law. Correct me if I'm wrong. Okay. I move on. So just a short note on how to teach these modules. If we spend a lot of time in the classroom talking about legislation, safety signs, stuff like that, we'll spend maybe too much time where we could have learned more if we went outside to the crane and actually looked at the wonder out there. And an example could be, we like to show, for example, safety signs. 2 PowerPoints with a lot of safety signs. We can go through them, we can talk about and say, and these safety signs, they will be on a crane. But why not go to the crane and look at those signs that are on the crane and talk about them there, where it makes sense for the participants to see, oh, it's here and it's about that thing or this thing. And then at some point, maybe the instructor can say, yeah, and then we have 200 other safety signs or 50 other safety signs. And I bet you also have different kinds of safety signs around the world. So you cannot cover everything, but you can create the mindset of there are safety signs and you should be aware of them and follow what they're saying, right? So, but in all, I put that on my note here. Take the theory out of the classroom, apply it when you are working on the crane. And then some of you will say, yeah, but they have to know this. They have to know this before we start craning. Yeah, do they? Of course, they need to know something. But it's easier to look at the maneuver panels and somebody saying, okay, pull this handle, it'll move this way, put this way, it'll move this way. You don't have to show it on the PowerPoint first. But people touch it and use it and then talk about it. But what about safety? Some of you guys will maybe say, yeah, of course it has to be safe, but that's your risk assessment and your responsibility as training providers to make the training safe. But we don't make anything safe by showing a lot of PowerPoints with important safety stuff. We make training safe when we do something together and we look after our participants and we interfere before they make an accident. But yeah, we make the training safe.
We have a question about the delivery, Thomas.
Yes.
So about the delivery theory, will this course be allowed to be delivered in a blended version? So theory online and a practical on-site?
Yes. I actually, funny enough, I have a slide on that.
Great.
I'll just move to that. No, I'll come back to that. Is that okay?
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, thank you. The short answer is yes, but I'll get back to it. I just wanted to make, because now we talked about the science and theory and legislation and stuff, this is a generic scope. It's not this crane, it's not a Palfinger crane or a HIA crane, it's all cranes, small cranes. So they should know principles of using or maintaining small cranes. And I just show a picture here from Louisiana, where Brandon, who should have been with us today, but couldn't make it, unfortunately. But he did a pilot training in Louisiana. And what he's showing here on the table is, yeah, we have a lot of different stuff. And he has some show and tell parts to say, on this crane, they have this kind of stuff, on another hoist, they have this kind of stuff. And so you must have some show and tell parts. You can have manuals from other manufacturers, maybe digitally. It doesn't have to be in paper. It could be digitally also, but you have to cover as many different possibilities as possible. And I like this idea about saying, okay, this is what we have on this crane, but on another crane it would look like blah 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 this, because then we sort of create this generic mindset that the training is all about. On this training facility, they had a big screen, digital screen over here with a computer that the participants could move onto to go in. Of course, the PDF were all open, so they could just go to the screen and change looking this lift or look at this lift. And that, I think that worked very well. And then of course they also had a lot of paper, but yeah, sometimes it's nice with a paper book, but yeah, environment and all this stuff, you know. Training equipment. You must have a crane. And when we say a crane, it's in the standard that a crane is a thing that can move in 3 different dimensions. One of them, of course, having a hook moving up and down, but also to slow or to extend the boom or to expand the boom. And so a David crane that can only turn to the side by a handle will not be sufficient for this training. So you need to have a crane. I just got a picture from South Africa where a train provider had just bought a new crane for training. That's good to go. It's wonderful. We also have in the training standard, we have produced. Oh, look at this. This is actually from Amsterdam, where Willemijn is sitting right now, where the training provider have a crane on their training provider facility boat. That's quite amazing. So in the training standard, we have these different illustrations for a hydraulic system, for a hoist, key points or key components of different crane types, and so that the instructor don't have to go out and find a lot of Google and stuff, but you can actually just use these illustrations for your trainings. One way could be to present it and talk about and say, this is the hoisting winch and this is the slew bearing and this is the wire rope. But you could also have, if some of them are experienced wind technicians, you could also present the drawing without the words on and have people put on the tags where you think they should be placed, so that you actually involve the participants and have them take some initiative for solutions. Delivery methods, back to the question, Willemijn. Yes, it can be, the training can be delivered everywhere. It can be delivered by virtual reality. We have Virginia, who is taking part of our technical part today, but she's also testing on this picture, testing a virtual reality training. We have another guy here. Can I make it run? No, I can learn this. Here we go. So you can also use a simulator like this one. So that, and you can also do it in person. You can do it on site. You can do it on the training facility. As long as you have a crane and you have the stuff, the books, the accessories, you can do it wherever you're certified to do training. And again, when we talk about the digital solutions, the only thing we say is that you have to meet the learning objectives. Can you meet the learning objectives? You can do it any way you like. That was an easy answer. I know that, but that is actually, if you go through the learning objectives in the standard, can I meet this virtual reality wise? Yeah, I can do that. Or is something, do I need to touch something? Okay, then you have to do a blended thing. If the things they can touch and they cannot touch it with the handles. But that is for you as training providers to decide what do you think is doable. In principle, all the GWO training standards can be met or can be delivered in a digital version. But of course, you have to be able to do those complex or meet the complexity levels of the learning objectives. Yeah.
I have a few questions. I'll try to pick out the ones that fit in with the topic we're discussing. And that is if there are any specific trainer qualifications or like experience, etc., required by the standard.
There are no prerequisites except those who are for all instructors in GWO. You have to have gone through the training standards. You have to be technically competent. in the topic. So there are no special requirements for doing the crane training.
Great, thank you. And another relevant one is if the training can be delivered on site to see the actual cranes.
Yeah, you can, and I think that's a very good idea. I think the more fidelity or the more real life the training scenario can be, the better. I think if you go out to a wind turbine and use the cranes that they are using there, and you say, we just have to take a few parts apart because we have to learn how to maintain it, so we cannot use the crane for the next 2 days. They may say, we're not so happy about that. But I mean, that's a local issue. So for the principle, you can do it everywhere. And I would say in the real life, the more the better.
Great. I have some more, but maybe we can. I'm not sure how many slides you have left.
No, just two or three more, so we can take them here.
Okay, great. So another question is, will any of the BTT modules be a prerequisite to attend Crane and Hoist?
No.
That's good. Sure.
Yeah. And you could say, yeah, because maybe some hydraulic or some chemical or something about from BTT could be interesting if you're going to maintain a crane. But what we are saying in the standard is that if you have technical knowledge or experience, it'll enhance your outcome from the training. But it's not a demand, but we are sort of suggesting some technical experience before.
Okay, great.
But again, and maybe I'm just a naive old guy, but I would imagine that the employer would never send anyone on a crane training if they were not fit to do it, or put somebody to learn how to maintain a crane if they had no knowledge about technical stuff. Someone like me, don't do it. I would never be sent to a technical training. So I guess people are hired by an employer because they can do something, and yeah.
Great, thank you.
Okay. So here we go. Yeah, and this is just to say, if you have more questions, let's touch them.
Okay, so you want me to do it now?
Yeah. Can I just also say that if we don't get all the questions answered, we'll look at them, and I don't know if we can send personal answers or something, but we'll find a solution. But let's go.
Yeah, great. Another question is, will GWO and its members start/continue to gather the information on human factors and make it available so training providers can refer to statistics worldwide?
I learned something about human factors by discussing it with G+ this summer. And I think we are focusing a lot on what does it mean that you're tired? What should you be aware of when you work or something like that? But I think we will be working on, in our team, we will be working on also what are the reasons for these human factors that they actually get a chance to be there, if you know what I mean. Why are people tired? Why are they sad, or why are they whatever they are? Not only that, this is dangerous. It's dangerous to be tired, but also what can we do to help it so that people are not tired? So it's a twofold thing with these human factors. I think there's what is the impact, what is the threat, what is the risk by people doing the wrong things for a reason, but also how can we work on not letting this be a possibility to keep the human factors impact not existent. Now we'll be working on that. Did I answer the question on that? I mean,
I think partially, but I think mainly is if we will make them available, so it can be used by training providers.
Yes, G+ is making a study on this, and it sounds very, very interesting. And I'm totally sure that when they come up with some conclusions and stuff, we will use that. So we will for sure share stuff about human factor in the next 6 months, I think.
Great, thank you. Another question that's been asked a bit in the beginning is if it would be possible to get the record in Winda for Slinger Signaler after attending the Crane and Hoist?
Sure. They have their own Winda record.
So, but you would have to attend them both to get.
Yeah, okay, yeah, sure. Yeah, there's nothing implicit, so because they're not 100% the same. So no, that'll be two different training records.
Great, thank you. And another question about would live, so the actual hoist exercises plus virtual crane operation be sufficient for training and assessment to the standard? So get the hoist in live and then virtual crane together, would that be sufficient?
And the short answer is yes, but the longer answer is yes, as long as you make sure that you reach all the learning objectives. But of course you can. I would say you can do almost all the crane practical exercises on a simulator, because it is about operating the crane. So yeah.
Great, thank you. That's it for now. Any questions from the Q&A?
Thank you. That was nice. That was nice. What's left for me to say is that please reach out if you have any more wonderings that you would like to discuss. And so the standard is out there. We will review it in 1 year from now. So any input, all input are welcome. And remember also, when we talk about the standards, it's not a training that Thomas, the old man, has been developing in Copenhagen in his own little bubble. It is actually developed by the wind technicians from the members from Siemens, Ørsted, whoever are members. So it is what is wanted out there. I should also put a focus on saying that we do the yearly safety and training forum. We do that in Dallas this year. It's the 14th of November, and we have a focus on training provider engagement and training provider society community. And if you're close to Dallas in the middle of November, join in, and it'll be a fantastic day in Dallas, where we talk about the instructor qualification training, and we talk about strategy for GWO and a lot of stuff. So please put this date on your notepad and consider to join us. That'll be fantastic. And what's left now to say is that thank you for joining. Thank you for all your questions. That was very nice. Much better than me trying to talk about technical stuff that I know not so much about. So great to hear from your concerns and ideas out there. Thank you. Bye for now from the team, Virginia, Wilhelmine, and me.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.